Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the CBL X's and O's podcast for season 2023. Sammy Gazzo from the Mildura Heat joining me today. We're going to review round 6 in the Northwest Conference. And it was an interesting round 6, Sammy. Some, middle of the range teams starting to hit some form. And then, the women's is just the women's basketball at the moment. There's wins, there's losses, and unexpected results.
Yeah, well, we've had two quiet rounds where we had two lots of rounds of 9 games where a couple of rests and this and that and single games. And now we're flat chat, mate. Everything is just gone. Last week we were saying in the men's there was probably only 4 or 5. I think this week it might be as many as 7 or 8 that have a chance to play finals now from the results on the weekend. And even on the women, probably some of the positions we didn't think they would be in have sort of topped and turned and everything like that. So let's get into it. Let's see how everyone went.
Saturday night, Kyneton hosted Swan Hill Flyers and unfortunately couldn't defend their home court and get their first win for the season, going down by, 35 points roughly?
Yeah, it looks like Mangan's injury might be a little bit more severe than he injured himself against us. So it might be a little bit there. It doesn't look like he played. So, it's going to be tough without your best player. They're obviously fighting for a win with him. So without him, it's going to be a little bit tougher. So it looks like they gave it a crack. But obviously, Swan Hill got the win. The two Lockies there, Somerville getting 34 and Gardner getting 26 seem to have just been a step above the rest there. So, good win for Swan Hill. They'll be happy with that.
And Maryborough went into Echuca for their first game of the weekend, and Zach Dunmore shot 36 to carry the Blazers over the line with a 33-point win. It's a great outing, and these Blazers are starting to gel even better as a team and slowly putting themselves back in potential top 4 positions.
Yeah, well, they're definitely one of the teams we've spoken about. Talent-wise, we knew it was definitely there. The addition of Zach Dunmore was going to happen. A couple of late games in, but he got there, and it just seems like the team's starting to gel at the right time. The thing with the season is that it's only 10 games, so it doesn't give you too much time to get too comfortable. But, yeah, they're one of the teams that have slowly made their way back in, and they're one of the teams that could be an upset for that 4 position, just seeing where they were a couple of weeks ago. So Zach Dunmore's obviously a classy player with 36 points. So Maryborough got it done in that second half, and we'll have to keep a watch on them moving forward, won't we?
We sure will. And Castlemaine went into Red Energy Arena and walked out of there with a 20-point win over Bendigo to give Bendigo their 3rd loss for the season. Probably wasn't expecting Bendigo to lose 3 this season.
Yeah, it is quite as we're going to go through, it's a pretty tight competition. Record-wise, I know at the moment there is sort of Castlemaine and us that are up there just with the 1 losses, but you can really see that tightness within sort of 3 to 7 or 8. There's a lot of talent in the competition. So it's probably, it's great to see. It's exciting that there is so much depth. So, yeah, Castlemaine went in there, Trent Leach leading the way there again with 23 points. And I think there's a lot of familiarity with those two teams. So a nice little rivalry, and Castlemaine will be happy they got the job done and moved on.
And Melton had the big road trip up to Mildura this past weekend, and they went into the hothouse and couldn't get the W, unfortunately. Your guys, the Heat, walked out of there with a 12-point win.
Yeah, I'm not sure Melton were too happy. You did mention them in regards to kilometres. Every time someone wants to visit us or when we drive, you have to write that it's 1,000 kilometres. It's the number one. But anyways, they're again, a great team, great organisation, well coached. I think for us, it was just last week against Bacchus, we did make the shots when we needed to. And then this week we did. So kudos to our guys for getting through that. Melton were a tough competition and obviously, we're happy to get away with that win.
And then on Sunday, Bendigo welcomed Echuca into Red Energy Arena, and this was probably a closer game than we probably expected. It only turned out to be a 3-point victory for Bendigo, but potentially some names missing from the leading scorers may be the reason why it was a bit closer.
Yeah, it seems like they didn't quite go in full squad there. Maybe give a couple of guys a rest. after what would have been a tough Saturday night against Castlemaine. So good on Echuca going in there and giving it a good red crack. That's what we want to see from everyone. But yeah, I guess Bendigo would just be happy that they didn't lose another 2 on a weekend because, yeah, they'd be stuck in the pack. So they've got one game clear sort of at the moment. So, yeah, good on them to get the W. And Isaac Murphy leading the way there with 16 points. So good on him.
And Maryborough backed it up on Sunday, taking care of the Macedon Rangers, who, the Macedon Rangers were in that 4th, 5th position and looking like they were going to snag a top 4 spot. And the Blazers now have changed their season slightly for the Rockies. And now the Blazers, the Rockies, and a few other teams are all at a similar point vying for maybe that last spot in the top 4.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tussle for that sort of 3rd and 4th position there. But yeah, no, it looks like it would have been a great game. Maryborough, I mean, well done to them to come after what would have been a tough game, going to Echuca and getting that W, and then backing it up on the Sunday. Again, Zach Dunmore leading the charge here with 35 points and Bailey Jacobs chipping in with 25. Just seemed to have too much for Macedon. So, yeah, it does change things a little bit. Not that there was a clear winner out of it, but that game there certainly does even things up a little bit, doesn't it?
Certainly does, and obviously will help Maryborough potentially in a head-to-head position with Macedon,
Yeah.
obviously getting that head-to-head. So Melton travelled into Swan Hill on the way home and made easy work of the Flyers, winning by about 50, which they needed to do. They needed the win.
Yeah, exactly right. Probably a couple of adjustments and a bit more of what we need to do would have come from the coach. And yeah, it just seemed to, from the get-go, they would have just made sure that they get one from the double away. And yeah, I mean, good on them for getting the win. It's not always easy to back up on Sunday to play against Swan Hill on the way back. It is an extra 2.5 hours from us on driving on the Sunday. So there is a bit of driving to get there to play the game before you get home. So ball back there leading the way with 20 points and Milan Savage 19. Those boys played well on Saturday as well. And it just seems like the Gardner boys on the other side led the way without Lockie Somerville, who obviously had 34 odd the night before. So it does make a difference when there's a 30-point scorer not playing.
And Bacchus Marsh hosted Kyneton and doubled their score pretty much for the game. And Riley Dunn shot 26. He's continuing his fine form this season.
Yeah, he is. The big fella's, he's athletic, he's long, and, he's a big figure in the middle of what they do there. So they would have come into that game really focused. After that loss last Sunday, from top of memory, that they might have had. Yeah, I think it was Bendigo, top of my head. So, yeah, so good on them, back on the winners list. And that also puts them in the mix, not knowing everyone's head-to-head, but 4 and 4 puts them in that traffic jam of everybody else. And, yeah, it just makes it for an interesting couple of rounds, which I reckon you did on purpose. I think you had a bit of an idea and might have been excited if we had some of these teams together. So, no, it's awesome. It's good and good on Riley and Bacchus Marsh.
Hey, it's very exciting. We'll take a quick look at the ladder, and we've got Mildura and Castlemaine sitting first and second up top, playing 8 games with a 7-1 record. Obviously, them two teams have pretty much locked in their final spot. We've then got Bendigo, who have played 8 games, sitting in third with a 5-3 record. But then we've got them closely followed by Melton and Macedon, who have only played the 7 games and they've got the 4-3 record. So potentially they even them up to the 8-game record and they could be 5-3 alongside Bendigo, which would give us a 3-way tie for 3rd and 4th position. Closely followed then again, Bacchus Marsh and Maryborough are sitting on at 4 and 4 each. They're sitting in 6th and 7th. So again, they're just scraping at the tails of them teams above them and going, hey, you lose a game, we're coming to get you because we're going to take your spot.
Yeah, exactly right.
Swan Hill sit the next position down with a 2 and 5 record, and then we've got Echuca and Kyneton to round out the ladder. And unfortunately, Kyneton still with that 0 in the win column. Hopefully, they will jack up a win this season, and potentially it's an upset and could have some effect on the final top 4 or the knock a team out of the top 4.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, see how we go. It's interesting. Can't wait. 2 more rounds. See what happens.
That's it. And let's have a look at the women. We had Kyneton host Swan Hill on Saturday night, and Michelle Fletcher, shooting 19 points, was able to ensure Kyneton continued winning to give them a 13-point victory.
Yeah, exactly right. I think more than anything else, they had 2 games that weekend. They probably just wanted to make sure that they took care of business. Like we know that they're not really a high scoring team, but they do play defense really well. So you'd expect that from them. And Michelle Fletcher always leading the way there with 19 points. So yeah, Kyneton would just probably look to find some, looking at where they are on the ladder with just that one loss, you think they're probably looking to get some good form going into finals. So yeah, Swan Hill gave it a crack, but yeah, Kyneton getting on top.
And Maryborough went into Red Energy Arena to take on the Braves, and they wiped them off the court. 21-point victory from the Blazers, and led from the front by their coach, Faith McKenzie.
Yeah, I mean, Faith McKenzie and Madison Egan have been leading the way all season, and there's probably been some up and down results for them in regards to the win, but to go in there and to win by 20 points is an achievement. Really, really good on them. So it just shows you as well with both sides, you can't really go in and just expect a W. You really do have to earn it. So even though some of the results are tipsy-turvy, some of those upsets, I don't know if they're really upsets, mate. They just go in and you're locked in, you've got a game plan, and you execute it, and you never know what happens. So, yeah, good on Maryborough. That's a great win.
And Mildura were able to make light work of Melton as they welcomed him into the hothouse. It was obviously Ruby Murphy shooting 22 points for the Thoroughbreds, did all she could to try and close the deficit.
Yeah, they had an injury to one of their key players. Might have been in the second quarter off the top of my head, Melton, and it just sort of maybe felt like from then it was a little bit of a sway in momentum, and Mildura just seemed to make the most of it. Probably did help Mildura having a lot of, well, they're still missing a few players, but a lot of those key players back playing together. So Alana Morello is obviously huge. She had 29 points, and Ava Zadow's having a great season so far for CBL. She's having 27 points. So yeah, again, it does take a couple of weeks, but now they find themselves in good position, only having lost 2 games, both of those to Bendigo, but 6-2 does holds Mildura in a good light, and Melton will obviously have a few more games to get ready before finals. So I think they'll be all right.
And then Sunday, Maryborough backed it up, getting their 3rd win for the season against Macedon. And what's that? 31 points. Not a bad win by the Blazers to make it 2 from 2 for the weekend.
Yeah, that's a great weekend. Yeah, you got 2 games, try and take care of both, and it seems like what they did. And again, like we said, Madison Egan, 27 points, Faith McKenzie with 10. Yeah, probably just went in there with the mindset to make sure that they weren't the team that Macedon got their first win against. And it just seems like obviously Macedon are just battling a little bit to get that first win. So fingers crossed they can get it in the last couple of rounds maybe and just, get off that 0 win.
And Melton travelled into Swan Hill on their way home, and they were able to turn around the result from Saturday night to win by 23 points, which is great for Melton. Gets into that 5-2 record with that 1 game still in their hand below Mildura. So good win for the Thoroughbreds.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a tough, again, like with the men, it's a tough place to go in and win on the Sunday. So probably gone in there with the focus, and Ruby Murphy has had a good weekend, even though they lost on the Saturday night. 26 points again on the Sunday means she was ready to go. So good on Melton for making sure they get that going. And again, just moving into finals, I'm sure they'll be ready to go.
And Bacchus Marsh welcomed Kyneton to Bacchus Marsh for their game, but unfortunately they couldn't get the W, going down by 9 points. And unfortunately, I think Kyneton's put the knife into Bacchus Marsh, and that's going to be pretty much their season done. Not going to be able to make the finals with a 3-4 record currently.
It does make it a bit tough. What are they, a game and a half or something of that nature behind 4th? So without knowing too much of what's happening in the last 2 rounds, it does make it a little bit harder for them. But that's probably what you'd expect from Kyneton. Again, not a very high score, scoring 65 points again. Jess Mangan with 17 and Michelle Fletcher there chipping in with 16. So defensively, they just seem to get the job done, Kyneton. But little shout out, obviously pretty happy that Layla Iglesias is back playing. So 14 points is probably a little bit below what we expect from her points wise, only because she does score it obviously in high volume. But it is good to see that, she's back playing. So, yeah, Bacchus Marshall. I have to see what happens the last few rounds.
Now let's look at the ladder, and we've got Kyneton sitting up on top with a 7-1 record, closely followed Mildura with a 6-2 record. Third is Melton with a 5-2 record, only playing that 7 games. So they've still got that one game in hand and potentially will be nipping at the toes of Mildura sitting second. Fourth is Bendigo with a 5-3 record, and they've got some tough games coming up. Bendigo in the last 2 games. So it'll be interesting to see if they can hang on into that top 4, and if not, improve their position to second or third. Bacchus Marsh are sitting fifth with a 3-4 record. Again, still got that. They've only played 7 games. They've got a game up their sleeve, but each loss just keeps pushing them down and making their chances of making the top 4 a lot tougher. Maryborough, 3-5 record, doing well. They've had a couple of wins late in the season. So the start of the season for them has probably hurt them. And then we've got Swan Hill with a 1-6 record, and Macedon on the bottom, 0-7. So still winless for Macedon, unfortunately, but fingers crossed. They got 3 games left. They might be able to steal a victory and get a 1 in the win column.
Can we clarify, excuse me, for the viewers, is a percentage or head-to-head moving into finals?
That's a good question. So it all depends on what the tie is. So the tie would go to head-to-head. So in a 2-way tie, it's head-to-head. If it's a 3-way tie, it would go head-to-head as well. But then some extra steps we need to follow should they have not played each other an equal number of games. So let's just go head-to-head, and then if we have to dig deeper, we'll dig deeper, and that's when it can get a little bit confusing. But I
want a 3-way tie. I want a 3-way tie somewhere. We need a 3-way tie. I want to be there on this show while you're working out who's playing finals.
Hey, we can explain it to the crowd if we do get it. Let's hope we don't get it, and we've only got some head-to-heads to make it easy to explain.
No, I want a 3-way tie. Come on, somewhere. Might happen in the men. Might happen in the men. See.
Well, that's it. The men there could be a 5-way tie. We never know where the men's going to land. It's that close. So that's our round 6 review for the Northwest Conference. And again, what a round it was. You said there was lots and lots of basketball, which was great to see in the Northwest. But I look forward to catching up with you later in this week when we preview round 7. And surely there's going to be lots of basketball still in round 7 to be played.